You know that feeling when you're absolutely furious at your boss, but instead of exploding, you go home and scrub your entire house until it sparkles? Or when you're heartbroken and suddenly you're writing poetry at 3 a.m. that you never knew you had in you? What if I told you that Freud had a name for this over a century ago? And more importantly, what if I told you this might be the healthiest thing your mind can do? Today we're diving into sublimation, the defense mechanism that doesn't just protect you from pain, but actually transforms it into something beautiful, productive, and life-changing. Before we start, if you want to understand your mind better and discover what Freud uncovered about human psychology, hit that subscribe button. Like this video if it resonates. And let's explore how your unconscious mind might be saving your sanity without you even knowing it. What is sublimation? The Freudian translator explains. Let's start with the basics. Sublimation sounds fancy, right? But it's actually something you do every single day. Picture this. You have a pressure cooker full of emotions: anger, frustration, sexual desire, aggression, sadness. Now, most defense mechanisms are like putting the lid on that pressure cooker and hoping it doesn't explode. Denial says there's no pressure. Repression shoves it down into the basement. Projection throws it at someone else. But sublimation is like connecting that pressure cooker to a generator. It takes all that raw, messy, sometimes destructive energy and transforms it into electricity that can power your entire life. Freud discovered this when he noticed that some of the most creative, productive people in history seem to channel their deepest struggles into their greatest works. Think about it. How many heartbreak songs have become classics? How many social movements started from someone's personal rage against injustice? This is sublimation in action. Your unconscious mind takes impulses that society says are unacceptable, like wanting to punch your annoying coworker, and redirects them into something constructive. Instead of violence, you might crush it at the gym. Instead of sexual frustration, you might pour passion into your art. The beautiful thing about sublimation is that it's the only defense mechanism that actually benefits both you and society. Everyone wins when you transform your inner chaos into outer creation. Form 1. Physical sublimation, when your body becomes your therapist. Let's talk about the first form of sublimation that can literally save your sanity: physical sublimation. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to work out like their life depends on it? They're not just trying to look good in a bikini. They're unconsciously using their body as a processing plant for emotions they can't handle any other way. Here's what happens in your mind. You're carrying around anger, sexual tension, frustration, maybe even grief. These emotions create what Freud would call psychic energy. It's real, it's powerful, and it needs to go somewhere. If you don't give it a healthy outlet, it'll find an unhealthy one. Maybe you'll snap at people you love. Maybe you'll develop anxiety. Maybe you'll turn to substances or compulsive behaviors. But when you sublime it physically, something magical happens. That woman who's been betrayed in love, she starts boxing, and every punch to the heavy bag is working through her trust issues. That guy who feels powerless at work, he starts rock climbing, literally conquering mountains because he can't conquer his boss. The gym becomes therapy, running becomes meditation, dancing becomes emotional release. I know someone who went through a brutal divorce and couldn't afford therapy, so she started gardening. She said every weed she pulled was like pulling out a piece of resentment. Every flower she planted was like planting hope for her future. That's sublimation, taking the destructive urge to uproot her ex-husband's life and redirecting it into literally uprooting weeds. And here's the brilliant part. Physical sublimation doesn't just release the emotion, it actually rewires your brain. Exercise releases endorphins, which are literally natural antidepressants. It builds confidence as you get stronger. It creates a sense of control when everything else feels chaotic. Your unconscious mind is incredibly smart. It knows that punching a person will get you arrested, but punching a heavy bag will make you healthier. It knows that screaming at your family will damage relationships, but screaming during a spin class will improve your cardiovascular health. The key is recognizing when you're doing this. Next time you feel an overwhelming urge to move your body, when you're emotional, don't dismiss it. Your psyche is trying to heal itself through motion. Form 2. Creative sublimation. Your pain becomes your masterpiece. Now let's dive into creative sublimation, and this one might be the most powerful of all. Think about every song that's ever made you cry, every book that's changed your life, every movie that felt like it was speaking directly to your soul. Chances are, it came from someone's sublimated pain. Here's how it works. Instead of being destroyed by difficult emotions, artists transform them into art. The poet doesn't just experience heartbreak, they alchemize it into verses that help millions of other people feel less alone in their own heartbreak. The painter doesn't just feel rage, they splash it across the canvas in colors that somehow make the world more beautiful. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to be a professional artist to use creative sublimation. Your unconscious mind doesn't care if you're going to win a Grammy or just singing in your shower. The healing happens in the process, not in the applause. Let me tell you about Sarah, not her real name. She was going through what she called the year from hell, lost her job, ended a toxic relationship. Her father was diagnosed with cancer. She felt like she was drowning in emotions she couldn't name, let alone handle. One night, at 2 a.m., she started writing. Not poetry, not a novel, just angry, messy, stream of consciousness words about everything that was wrong with her life. She wrote for hours. When she finished, something had shifted. The emotions were still there, but they felt manageable, external, like they existed in the words instead of just in her chest. That's sublimation in action. She took internal chaos and gave it external form. Instead of imploding, she exploded on paper. The magic of creative sublimation is that it does three things simultaneously. It releases the emotion, it creates something meaningful from suffering, and it often connects you with others who've felt the same way. Think about it. How many times have you read something or seen something and thought, oh my God, someone else gets it? That artist just sublimated their pain into connection. They transformed their isolation into community. And the beautiful irony is that often our greatest struggles become our greatest gifts to the world. The comedian who makes us laugh about depression, the writer who helps us understand grief, the musician who gives us permission to feel our feelings, they're all practicing sublimation. Your unconscious mind knows something profound. If you're going to suffer anyway, you might as well create something beautiful from that suffering. Form 3. Intellectual sublimation, when curiosity saves your life. The third form of sublimation might surprise you. Intellectual sublimation. This is when your mind transforms emotional energy into a hunger for knowledge, understanding, or problem solving. Have you ever noticed how some people become almost obsessively curious about topics related to their pain? The person who was cheated on becomes an expert in relationship psychology. The one who grew up in poverty becomes fascinated by economics. The one who felt powerless as a child becomes a lawyer fighting for justice. This isn't coincidence. It's sublimation. Here's what's happening psychologically. Your unconscious mind is saying, I can't control what happened to me, but I can understand it. I can't change the past, but I can master this knowledge so I'm never helpless again. Freud himself was probably doing this. He was fascinated by the unconscious partly because he was wrestling with his own unconscious conflicts. Every theory he developed was, in some way, him trying to understand himself and his patient's suffering. Let me give you a modern example. There's a woman I know who survived an abusive relationship. Instead of just trying to get over it, she became intensely curious about trauma, psychology, and healing. She read everything she could find. She took courses. She eventually became a therapist. Herself, that's intellectual sublimation. She took the energy of her pain, the anger, the confusion, the need to make sense of what happened, and channeled it into expertise. That now helps hundreds of other people. And here's what's fascinating. Intellectual sublimation often leads to what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. Instead of just surviving trauma, people actually become stronger, wiser, more empathetic because of it, but only when they sublime it, when they transform the energy instead of just suppressing it. Your mind is incredibly resourceful. When it can't fight the tiger, it studies the tiger. When it can't change the past, it builds expertise for the future. When it can't control what happened to you, it helps you control what happens to others. The key insight here is that your obsessions often contain the seeds of your healing. That topic you can't stop reading about, that problem you can't stop thinking about, your unconscious might be guiding you toward your own transformation. How to recognize sublimation in your own life. Now that you understand the 3 forms of sublimation, how do you recognize when you're doing it? And more importantly, how do you do it more intentionally? First, pay attention to what you're drawn to when you're emotional. Do you feel an urge to move, to create, to learn? That's not random. That's your psyche trying to heal itself. Second, notice patterns. What do you always do when you're stressed? Some people clean obsessively. That's often sublimation, transforming inner chaos into outer order. Some people research obsessively. They're trying to understand their way out of pain. Some people exercise until they're exhausted. They're literally running from emotions while simultaneously processing them. The difference between healthy sublimation and unhealthy coping is this. Sublimation creates something positive. It builds you up while it processes the emotion. Unhealthy coping might numb the emotion, but it doesn't transform it, and it often tears you down in the process. Here's a practical tip. Next time you're overwhelmed by difficult emotions, ask yourself these 3 questions. How can I move this energy through my body? How can I create something meaningful from this experience? What can I learn that might help me or others? Your answers will point you toward your natural sublimation style. And remember, sublimation isn't about bypassing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about feeling the emotions fully and transforming them into something constructive. You're not avoiding the pressure in the pressure cooker. You're harnessing it to power something beautiful. Why sublimation is Freud's greatest gift to mental health. As we wrap up, I want you to understand why sublimation might be the most important concept Freud ever gave us. In a world that often tells us to just think positive or get over it, sublimation offers a different path. It says, your pain is not pointless. Your struggles are not shameful. Your difficulties contain raw material for greatness. Sublimation is the bridge between surviving and thriving. It's how trauma becomes wisdom, how heartbreak becomes art, how anger becomes activism. It's how the worst things that happen to us can become the source of our greatest contributions to the world. The beautiful truth is that you're probably already sublimating more than you realize. Every time you channeled frustration into a workout, loneliness into creativity, or confusion into curiosity, you've been practicing this ancient psychological alchemy. The difference is doing it consciously. When you understand sublimation, you can partner with your unconscious mind instead of fighting it. You can trust that your psyche knows how to heal, and you can provide it with the outlets it needs. So, what do you think? Can you recognize sublimation in your own life? Maybe that hobby you're obsessed with, that workout routine you can't skip, that project you can't stop thinking about. Maybe they're all your mind's way of transforming pain into power. Here's your challenge for the next week. When difficult emotions arise, ask yourself, how can I channel this energy into something constructive? How can I let my pain teach me something? How can I transform this struggle into strength? Comment below and tell me, what's one way you've sublimated difficult emotions without even realizing it? What came out of your pain that surprised you? I read every comment, and your stories help other people realize they're not alone in this process. If this video helped you understand your mind a little better, hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear this. And if you want more insights into how your unconscious mind works, both the beautiful and the messy parts, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Remember, your struggles don't define you, but how to transform them might just be your greatest masterpiece. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore another fascinating corner of the human psyche that Freud illuminated for us all.